2018 SDCIA meeting. We got a great meeting coming up tonight. I am filling in for Fred tonight. Presentation tonight's going to be done by myself and three much better looking people than Fred. So that'll be a big help. Lenska will be helping tonight. Where's Lenska? In the back. Everybody wave hi to Lenska. And Ann Belinsky is going to be helping too. I'm one of the regulars who comes here and I teach one of the classes. You guys hear me okay in the back? Okay. We're not as polished as Fred, but with your help, we're going to make tonight's meeting the best meeting so far this year. Okay? So I'd like everybody's help on that. I will try to do my best to keep this moving as Fred does, and we'll see how we go. I'll talk a little bit more about myself when I talk about the class I teach in just a few minutes. So the SDCIA, who has not been here before? Who's here for their first time? Okay, I'm going to read this. Just I'm good. I'm glad to see you tonight. We hope you sign up and we'll be coming more often. SDCIA and our officers, directors individually or collectively assume no liability or responsibility for the outcome of any real estate transaction, decision, other action that any SDCIA member, guest, visitor should enter into as a result of attending any of our meetings, events, classes, expos, etc. This notice applies to any guest speaker or talking to SDCIA members, guests, visitors, persons, SDCIA website, or from the following educational content, resources, library. We don't endorse any real estate deals that may be made. We don't urge you to do any. We highly suggest you do your due diligence, which is what I actually teach. And when I talk in a couple minutes, I'll just tell you that for those of you who are real estate investors and been doing it for a while, you know what I say. There's no easy real estate deals. Many people come, first time in and they're like, I want to learn how to do this, make money the easy way. There's no easy deals in real estate. So it's hard work, it's educating yourself, it's networking with people who have done this stuff before that will get you into the frame of mind and knowledge to be able to succeed in doing deals over a lifetime. So you will learn some hard lessons along the way, but the more you educate yourself, the better you're going to do in life on real estate. Okay? We always like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you guys can stand up real quickly. Here's our flag. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. First time I came here a long time ago, Bill Tam did that. I thought it was really nice to do the pledge here, so hopefully everybody's good with that. Cell phones, please put on vibrator silent. And I want to welcome you as I did. We always like to recognize any military, past military. Stand up, please, if you're a current or past military, or a first responder, police officer, nurses, anybody. So thank you for your service. You may not always think that people appreciate it, and sometimes we don't think we appreciate it that much, but when we need you, we know how much we appreciate you, so we do appreciate your work for our country and for us here in San Diego, so thank you. So SDCIA meeting benefits. We've got education, we have different speakers all year, we have help desks, networking opportunities, we have national club benefits and discounts. Two of our biggest ones are Home Depot, is one of our largest ones. So Home Depot has a program. You sign up and you get 2% rebate on all your purchases. I'm in this too. I've gotten a few $100s every 6 months. So you buy stuff over 6 months. You sign up all your credit cards. They accumulate your spending, and then you get a gift card in the mail about in August and in February for 2% of all the money that you spend. Okay? We also have a great deal with Office Depot that has great benefits and huge discounts for people who are in the club and who need those types of services. So if either one of those, if you think you're going to use either one of those, everybody should sign up for Home Depot. It's free with membership, right, Lenska? Home Depot is free with membership here?
Correct.
Free with membership. So, do we have anybody from Home Depot here? I don't see their sign here tonight. But they're here. You can talk to Ann about that, and it's a great deal, so everybody can sign up for that. If you're going to do real estate, you're going to be getting familiar with Home Depot. Membership advantages. It's $45 per year, and then you pay an entry fee when you come each time. But it helps to support the club. It's really reasonably priced. And I know everybody who comes here and is often at this club enjoys the networking opportunities, so we'd highly encourage you. If they paid $20 tonight, where's Ann? If they paid $20 tonight, they can credit that. Is that right? For membership, if they paid $20 tonight, they can credit that for their membership. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So if you paid $20 tonight, you might as well pay the other $25, and then you've got your membership for the year. We always need volunteers. If you have any interest, you can talk to Julie over there. She's going to raise her hand, and we always need volunteers to help out if anybody has an interest. And we've got a help desk in the back. Ward, raise your hand back there. He knows everything, so if you have questions about real estate, anything, he's the guy that can help you. We also have a great library in the back. Dane, are you back there? So we got a whole bunch of books back there, which are really great opportunities for you to read and learn stuff, just as some of the other resources that we have here in the club for you to use. We also, online, we have a new website that I'll tell you about in just a minute. Maybe I'll have Ann talk a little bit about, no, I won't have Ann talk about that a little bit. Maybe, we'll see. We got a new website online, so if you haven't checked it out lately, check it on out. It's going to be a lot more useful than the last website that we had. Who created that last website? Somebody that wasn't here? Yeah. All right, Ann's in charge of the new one, so that's on. You can download past meetings, and we've got education, information, haves and wants, all kinds of stuff on the website for you. Okay? We got, like I said before, we got the Home Depot Pro User Office stuff, and if you want to learn more, you can text SDCIA REIASPC to 555-888 to get more information. Okay? So we're a group of investors that work together once a month for training, networking, and education. And on our website, there's member benefits, property leads, calendars of events, real estate glossary. So you guys who have passwords, and do our same old passwords work for the new site? No. Okay, so we need to sign up again.
So everyone should
hold on.
receive an email with a temporary password. All members should have a temporary password that will allow them to log in, and then you gotta do it. If you are having problems, please email me. But not all of them.
Not tonight, not tonight. When did that go up? We have a question, Ann.
That went active on the 3rd or 4th of January.
Okay. Great. Okay, so take a look at that too. It should be really helpful to you. You can email Ann with questions, newsletter@sdcia.com. Don't email her during the meeting or tonight, but over the next week you can email her. She'll be able to help you out so she's not bogged down with too many items. Also, we've got all kinds of powerful tools, resources for you. Personal website, we got memberships for free for professional real estate websites. You can list your properties, advertise properties, your personal website, all kinds of stuff that we have that you can learn about on the new website to help you guys out, whether you're a real estate sales professional, lawyer, property inspector, flipper, rental property owner, whatever it is, all kinds of great stuff for you. And you know, the people who are here all the time know all this stuff. Okay? So, we're going to go next to our sponsors.
Yes.
We have a lot of sponsors. You guys help support us, and our sponsors also help support us, so we always give them a quick minute.
Give all the sponsors a big applause while we pull up their slides, because certainly those meetings wouldn't run without. So we have Bill, where's he? Come on.
I'm not Bill, I'm Michael.
Michael, sorry.
Co-realty. I'm a real estate 1031 exchanger. I can help you exchange your property into replacement properties without paying any taxes. Now, I have all my contact information and an article on 1031 exchanges, oil and gas royalties. That's available as well. Take a look at it. We're going to Las Vegas in 2 weeks. We're going to be spending a week out there exchanging real estate. We're going to have hundreds of off-market properties. If you're interested in getting information on that, give me a call. 858-848-4274. If you haven't got one, just look it up in here.
We still going to be able to do 1031 exchanges? We still going to be able to do 1031 exchanges going forward?
Yes, we are.
Still in the tax law?
Yeah, there is no problem whatsoever. The only difficulty is with a personal property.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Davis?
Hello, I'm Brian Davis with AccuPlan. I do self-directed retirement accounts, so I help people that want to use their IRA money in real estate deals. I personally loan people money out of my retirement account and secure it with a trustee, but you can buy direct real estate and do a lot of different things. So if you have any questions, I have cards and flyers in the back, 619-892-2438, or email me briandavis@accuplan.net.
Diane, come on down.
Good evening. I am Diane of Diane'sDeals.com, and we're also with Berkshire Hathaway. My team and I do investor deals. We're realtors for investors only. Just you guys, no normal people. That's all we do. We hunt for treasure every day. When we find it, we call you. To get called, just go to my website, Diane'sDeals.com. Sign up and tell us what you're looking for, what price range, which geographical area, what degree of difficulty. When we find one, we'll call you. If you get anxious, call us first. Thanks so much.
George, is George here? No. George is our insurance guy from Waterbridge. So he's been here before. He's got all kinds of insurance products for you. I'm sure he'll be around next time. How about Tom?
Good evening, everybody. Tonight is profiling deals, and I'm a mortgage banker, home loan broker. I put together financing deals all the time. So you're talking about long-term financing. You're an investor. You need long-term financing for buy and hold. You're buying your first property. You need something with low down payment, 3.5%. You need FHA. Any of those type of things that entails long-term money, come back to me. I'm the loan deal desk here. Tom McFarland, 858-485-0462.
Thanks, Tom. How about Max? I had lunch with Max the other day. Is he here? Max here? No, Max is a real estate professional investment, so he'll be here next month, I'm sure. How about Corey?
We got some deals.
I'm not Corey, but
That's okay.
I'm with Network Realty, and we're also a brokerage here in town. What we do is we buy houses as it is where it is, and then we sell them to investors in the same condition. So if anybody here is looking for deals, we do a lot of off-market stuff, and we just sell it as private inventory to our investors. That's Corey's information, so you're more than welcome to give him a call, and he'll get forward to somebody in the office.
What's your name?
Gotti.
Gotti. Okay, thank you.
Give us the phone number.
Corey's number is 619-577-4614. My number is 858-371-8877.
How about Fatima? Not here, 10 usual. She'll be here next month. Nicole? Bruce?
He's here.
Get up here, Bruce.
Hey, look at that. Oh,
That's a good picture, though, so.
That's a pretty good picture, yeah. It's very nice. Hi, Bruce Main Trillion Capital. Happy New Year to everybody. We're the platinum sponsor here. Wish you all a trillion successes this year. We're your hard money lender. We're doing all kinds of deals. Our goal this year is to do over $1 trillion in business in California. Who wants to go with us? All right. Give me a call if I can help you out with buy and hold, fix and flip. We got a new rental program, new construction. We're doing small divisions, new construction stuff, so almost everything for everybody. We'll get that number fixed, but my real number is not that one. You can call me at 619-541-5082. I got flyers in the back with a green ribbon across it, and phone numbers on there. Thanks.
What's that number again? 619?
619-541-5082.
Thank you. Anybody from BGI now? How about Brock?
Hi there, my name is Brock Vandenberg. I'm with Talamar Financial. We are the biggest, baddest hard money lender here in town. We spend specialize in financing fix and flips, construction loans, and bridge loans. Recently, we just posted a new before and after photo of a project we financed in Point Loma. Go to our website, talanoirfinancial.com, and check out how this rehab went. It's an amazing property. If you're looking for a hard money loan for a fix and flip, call me. My number is, you can use this number, 888-868-8467. That's going to ring directly to my cell phone. I'd be more than happy to talk about the fix and flip program, pricing, and how we structure our loans. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
David here?
Oh, I get a second chance?
Karen is direct IRAs.
On the other half.
What's your name, please?
Hi, I'm Donna Nash. My husband Jay he's got 30 years of experience in commercial and residential inspections. He's a certified infrared thermographer and also offers special services like sewer scopes, etc. So for any inspection needs, just give us a call, 858-888-0848. And we have some brochures and special offers in the back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other sponsors here that didn't have slides?
Yeah, my slide wasn't up there. I went first last time though, so.
Come on up.
My name is John with HomeCoin.com. We list your properties on the MLS for $95. We're the best way to make the most money possible on your flips. We closed our 400th sale in December, and we work all over California. So wherever you're at, Sacramento, Fresno, Los Angeles, San Diego, we can cover you. We have a couple dozen active listings in San Diego at the moment. So please check us out in the back. And my phone number is 619-372-3718. Again, it's John with HomeCoin.com.
And they have a booth back there, so go visit them. So now we're going to have the haves and wants. We have Tapio, go.
I am Tapio, a Viking from Finland. I am a big investor in Vegas, looking for notes and commercial income residential. Let's see, 30 unit plus on the rental or multi-family side, and notes non-performing and performing.
Phone number.
344-7777 or tapio.re.
Thanks, Tap.
Good job.
Well, again, DianeSteals.com. I brought two deals tonight. We have a small one, alcohol fixer, for $435 and Oceanside for $600. I just got the info on these today, so I don't have a lot of details, but if you're interested, just go to the website or give me a call, and the number is 858-876-7494. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey there, my name is Drew Michael. My wife and my company is Mansion Makers LLC. We do fix and flips here in San Diego, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County. And it physically pains me to not be able to share the wealth with all of the private capital and private money people in this room. It just keeps me awake at night. So I'm trying desperately to find at least one other person in this room that wants to capitalize on some of the big returns that my wife and I are making at Mansion Makers LLC. We have one property right now. It's almost done. We're about 2 weeks away from finishing it up. And it appraised for $425. We only owe $85 on it. And we're just looking for basically a $45K plus, somewhere in that range, bridge loan. So if you have money available on credit cards, a HELOC, savings, a 401K, and it's not earning you hundreds of dollars up front and every month, in the next 60 days, let's fix that. We're seeking a short-term bridge loan until we can refinance our current project. Hit up securedroi.com. Again, that's securedroi.com. That's our website.
And phone number?
858-414-0399 or sdrehabbers@gmail.com.
Thanks.
Hi, good evening and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay. Kathy Pearson from Realty Moves. Tonight I want to tell you about something quite different than I usually pitch. This is an opportunity to be involved in a very large-scale ground-up development project in Baja, California. So I don't know if too many of us do international stuff, but this is a project on the East Coast, under the Sea of Cortez, where the senior partner that I'm working with is a dual national. many years of real estate experience here, engineering degree from down there. The local authorities are very happy with these projects. We're looking for some entry-level capital, but not too small capital, somewhere in the $5 million to $50 million range. There are other people committed actually to more of it, but they won't be the first in the door. So this would be backed by land. We're getting the land on very inexpensive, discounted land, but yet it's at the stage where it's going to take a lot of infrastructure before it's going to be productive.
Telephone
This is
number?
not short. It's not short term. 619-213-2513, but it could be 6 months to a year if you need to get out fast.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks to all the hats and wands. Does everybody know what kind of our itinerary is today? I hope. So first, by popular demand, the market update is back.
In 1 second.
Yes. And if the meeting goes well, Leonard
We were in charge of it.
Leonard and Lenska,
We're in charge.
people with the L in the front, we're in charge. If you didn't like it, all complaints go to Ann.
Yes. That's right. Send your complaints to Fred, or on the website, post them. Ann ran it, what went on. If you liked it, it's Leonard and Lenska.
Exactly. So market update, and it will be followed by a special presentation about the accessory dwelling units. Then we have the panelists come up, present their deals, and then we have plenty of time for questions and answers. So you guys know how big we are on education, and we're kicking off January with...
Yes, we are. With a class that I teach, and also a class that is going to be taught by Fred, actually. Fred's teaching the class. So one of the things I also do, I'm teaching a class this coming Saturday. So I'm going to give you a 2-minute about it, and then we're going to get on to Lenska and the market update. I'm a long-term real estate investor. I taught at San Diego State for years, and I've done real estate forever. I'm the boring rental property owner guy, and I teach a class about how to be smarter about investing and do your due diligence. It's coming up this Saturday. It's $59 for members. Is that right, Ann? $55. It's discounted. How much for non-members?
It includes lunch.
It includes lunch. Do we get lobster, or what do we get?
Not this time around.
Sandwiches. How much for non-members? $89. So let me tell you what I teach. I've learned many hard and expensive lessons on real estate. In teaching it, I've taught thousands of realtors continuing ed courses. And I've learned all these lessons not only from myself doing it and managing my own properties, but also from listening to people. So I walk you through all the items that come in my textbook that I wrote for San Diego State. If you come to the class, you'll get a copy of the textbook too, so that's included from now on going forward. And what I teach you is cash flows and rates of return, how to pencil out a real estate deal, overall due diligence. I'll teach you about income taxes, self-directed IRAs, 1031 exchanges, mortgage financing, homeowners association analysis. Any board members here on HOAs? Nobody? Anybody had a water problem that lives in a condo or HOA lately and had fun dealing with it? Anybody know what reserve studies are? Anybody know how to do your due diligence on HOAs? I'll walk you through all that. Again, so you're smarter when you invest, you know what to look at, what to think about. I'll walk you through some property inspections. I'll teach you about insurance, dwelling and liability insurance, title issues. I'll talk a little bit about LLCs and trusts, revocable trusts, property management, asset protection, all these things that I learned for years, taught for years at San Diego State, wrote my course out, and that I teach to realtors and everybody else. I'll teach you how to pencil out a real estate deal. I'll teach you about income taxes. By the way, for those of you coming, if you want, feel free to bring your income taxes with you. Bring your insurance declaration pages with you. Bring any analysis you have with you, your HOA documents, and we can walk through and take a look at those too. So you can look at those while I'm going over what I'm teaching you. So it's this Saturday, it's Real Estate Investing 101, how to be a smarter investor by reducing your risk with the proper due diligence. You'll get a great education. It's fun. All the proceeds go to SDCIA. Lunch is included. It's down at Cuvier Basin. Everybody know where that is? Ann will have information, but it's down in Mission Beach area. And we have a good time, and so we hope that you'll consider. There's flyers in the back, and Ann, raise your hand and wave. Ann is in charge if you want to sign up tonight, and you can just show up also on Saturday. Reserve your seat if you can, and we'll have a good time. And I always tell people, and I've never had anybody take me up on it, if you don't feel that you get your money's worth, your money will be returned to you on the class, but we'll have a good time. Okay. It starts at 9:30, 9 or 9:30? 9. And we'll go to about 3:30 or so. And we'll have fun. It's relaxing. Anybody taking it in here? Anybody here that's taking it? Got it worthwhile? All right, I owe you $5, thanks. So, all right.
Okay, you also can sign up on the new website. So we finally made it. You can go right on the website to sign up. So that's a huge improvement. Definitely a class you need to start out with. By the way, we have a lot of new members. If you haven't picked up a newsletter yet, please do. We have some extra copies, some really great content in there. So,
and I'll be around afterward to talk to you if you have any questions about the class. Thanks, Lenska. Jump in there. Appreciate it.
We're back to me. By the way, I am the new elected board member for the SDCIA. Don't clap so loud. I might raise the membership fee. So nothing in the stars yet. But so I have a new hat on. So besides doing the market update, welcome everybody. Happy New Year. May this year be a good year for your ROI. I ring in 2018 with the San Diego Real Estate Market Update January 2018. You can also find it on YouTube. Just Google Lenska's Market Update and subscribe. You have the full version. What I'm giving tonight is a short, very short version. These are the real estate data points we usually talk about: the sales and inventory numbers, interest rates, employment data, home purchasing sentiment. It comes out today, so I could not include it in the presentation. We'll be talking about consumer confidence. Some builder sentiment. Obviously, boards tell us there's nothing going on in trust deeds, right? It's the most lowest we have seen in 100 years. So we'll talk a little bit about consumer debt instead, and obviously affordability. So what is this chart? The global median home price, eggnog consumed, people with the flu, or New Year's resolutions made, or none of them above. Because it is, I just wanted to talk about Bitcoin. Okay? So everybody's talking about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is going to be the biggest bubble ever. Which was another big bubble? The tulip mania. Okay? So that was in the 1700s. So our real estate bubble in 2007 or 8 doesn't even make the top 10. So we have other big bubbles. Okay, so the red line is the Bitcoin, which this, I think, will go much higher. All right, so we got the bubbles out of the way, and we're not in a bubble here, because the San Diego median home price for detached went down a little bit in December, so we finished up at 610,000, 8% increase year over year. So median sales price in December 2016 was at 565,000. So when you were scared to buy some more properties, you know, you could have made another 8%. The all-time high median sales price was in June 2007 at 595. Detached is hovering around the 400,000. Attached, sorry, thank you. Attached is hovering around the 400,000 line, so we finished at 406 and was an 11.2%. Median net sales price in December a year ago was 365, and the highest in March 2005, it was 390, okay? So we are above that. Don't ask me why the spike is, it's not right, so just bear with me there. Price per square foot. Every rehabber, every appraiser, everybody goes by price per square foot. Or if I do a roof addition, if I'm a builder. So price per square foot is super important. It's for detached about 382, okay, 9.5% increase, and for attached is about 401, okay? So we have not very much of a seasonal adjustment. So that shows you because we still talk about low inventory, okay? Active listings down, look at that, 26.7%. We now have 2,875. If you deduct the ones in Borrego Springs and in Julian and Alpine, okay, and the ones that are on a steep hill and no garage, you probably end up with 2,000, maybe halfway decent, right? So in March 2004, we still had 3,719. So you see how we have a housing crisis. We have a serious housing crisis. 1103 listings for attached. Okay, 33 days on market. It usually creeps up a little bit in December, you know, and it did. So still 33 days is damn fast. On attached, it's about 25 days. Look where we were in 2012. It was nearly 100 days it took to sell a unit. So very fast pace. Mortgage interest rate, no surprise, it was pretty steady. The only thing I noticed that the Alt-A 12-month bank statement 30-year fix is now at 5.5. It was at 6.25. So maybe there's some help for all us self-employed people to get a decent mortgage again. So there's some sample payments, but conventional 30-year fix is at 4, right? And we have FHA and VA 30-year fix about at 3.625, which changes daily, right? All right, strong job market. San Diego was revised in November. I only have the November reading, so numbers. I had it at 3.6, I believe, and on 3.7, and it was revised to 3.3. Okay, very strong job market in San Diego. So all this is great news, right? That's what you think. I think differently. You guys know I always like my labor participation rate, which is 62.7%, which is unchanged for the last month, but it is the lowest in 40 years. Who has gotten a raise last year in their W-2 job? Come on, admit to it's good. Okay, so about 3% in the room. And that's the reason. The consumer confidence is very high. A lot of people making travel plans per Bloomberg, okay? But they're not so confident about higher income. And with the home prices being so high, who can afford that, right? So we all need to make more money. So only 12% on the right-hand side think that they will make more money. And that is also historically pretty low. So this is the discrepancy between, we have low unemployment, but it's not equal to higher income yet, which we definitely need to keep that housing market going. Am I a buzzkill? No, not yet. Or maybe not. Okay? Also, we need much more higher down payment. Look, the savings rate is 22% over the trailing year. So we're in the basement 2.9%. People used to save much, much more. So how can we buy a house if we can't save? So we're not talking about this one. Go on YouTube. I will have it later. Home builder sentiment, highest since 1999. Obviously, the builder love it, right? At 74 points here. In San Diego, it's about 79, okay? because the houses also fly off the market. Now, the builders like a little bit relaxed policies and regulatory relief, but it might be outweighed a little bit by the tax bill. But definitely there was higher traffic to the model homes and the expected sales are good. Housing prices, we're not building enough. It's practically 4% below normal. We have been going like this for about 5 or 6 years and longer. Okay, so here it is. Nobody has a down payment. Buyers have less skin in the game again. So the pink line is for repeat buyers. So they usually sell and have a little bit more down payment in the next house. The blue line is for all buyers, and the green line is for the first-time home buyers. So the first-time home buyer is only putting down about 5%. But historically pretty low. Because most of the buyers were saving for down payment was difficult. Most of it was held back due to student debt, and the major reason cited by 49% of all buyers and 53% of first-time buyers. So practically the down payment is the problem. The second most cited barrier to saving for down payment was credit card debt. Aha! Do I need to say any more? Loan debt, car loans are up. Auto loans, pink line. Other is the blue line. Credit card debt, orange line, and student debt loan. Look at that. So here's housing prices and solutions. So during 2007-15, between 2007 and 15, the city grew by roughly about 15,000 people each year, but only averaged 3,000 new houses annually. Okay, so they have a bunch of suggestions what they want to do to increase building and construction. So these might be some good possibilities for you to maybe think about buying in these kind of neighborhoods. Remember what happened to the zip code 92102? Okay, zoning change, boom, prices doubled within 2.5 years. Okay, so affordability practically is cut in half. It takes now we are about what LA is, 88% increase. It used to be the payment 1,340, now it's 2,530, okay? Practically you need to make double the money in order to qualify. But the personal income didn't go higher. So if you want to learn more, you can follow me around on Saturday. I have been for 9 years teaching what is called a rehab field trip. I won't smile again. It's not, the consumer debt is not that bad. Okay? So I teach a class for over 9 years where we go into the field, look at fixer properties and analyze them for maximum profit. Flyers are also in the back. And we talked about the real estate classes SDCIA is putting on. I'm stuck. Really? Okay. All right. Dead air. Don't you love it? Dead air. So maybe a guy can rescue me. By the way, they needed to put some me as in for diversification, right? Or what's the word?
Quality instruction.
Okay. I'll probably wait on the battery, something. Okay, so if you want a copy of the presentation, just go to YouTube, okay, which I have. Okay, then we'll open the wrong one. Okay, all right, go ahead. Okay, thank you. Okay, here's my contact information. Okay, I'm a real estate broker and investor. Lenska 858-717-0314. Okay? With this one said, we're running a tight ship today. Did you guys notice? Yeah. Huh? So, we have a very special presentation today. Who I think Fred has talked about the ADUs, accessory dwelling units, for quite a few meetings now. I'm actually glad we could help Fred out. He's not sick, he is not tied up in another meeting. Guess where he is? Skiing. Okay. I was only able to do the meeting even so I do not live in Coronado. Okay, it's an inside joke, right? Because Fred always says, I live in Coronado, and in Coronado this. Do you live in Coronado, Chris?
I don't, actually.
Okay, still she's invited, because Chris has a bachelor's degrees in engineering and master's in business. She used to work more for the program management and telecommunication and defense contracting, but her real passion was in architecture. So she switched her focus and is now part of the Roulette Design Group. And the reason why I'm announcing her, because I'm the only one that can pronounce her last name, which is Chris Dulnikovsky. So welcome her, and she's going to talk about 10-15 minutes about the ADU.
Fantastic. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here talking about accessory dwelling units. How many people have heard of accessory dwelling units? Fantastic. Okay, good. A fair amount. So with that, we want to talk about what they can do with them, why they're good, and how they can benefit you. So first off, Lenska, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm Chris Dolnikowski. It's got a lot of letters. But I'm with Brilliant Design Group, and my principal here is Audrey Brilliant. She's also here with me, help answer your questions. So we focus on commercial and residential architectural design and engineering services. With that, we're talking about accessory dwelling units. It's a new opportunity. It's literally only about 1 year old now. And what we're looking at is the potential for long-term rentals, aging in place, also the college kids that come back from college and can't afford, because of all the student loans that Lenska just talked about, to find a place on their own. Also potential for Airbnb. So as you saw in the last few slides, total housing crunch. We definitely have a housing problem, both in houses on the market and on the rental side. With that, we're looking at how we can help with accessory dwelling units. So accessory dwelling units, looking at two things: increasing your property value, and then having that option for rental income. So what exactly is an accessory dwelling unit? They go by many names. You heard of them as granny flats, maybe casitas, maybe guest homes, mother-in-law suites, etc. But from the old time to now, there's a big, big difference in what is happening with accessory dwelling units. For one, it's turned into a completely second residence. So in the past, a granny flat could not have a kitchen and could not be legally rented. So for those of you that have gone through that process previously, you actually had to notarize a form and a document that says, I would not rent this. And you could not have a kitchen in it. So there wasn't as much property value increase with that. Well, what is happening now with the Senate Bill 1069 that I'm going to go into some details on is you can legally rent them. You've got the option for a full kitchen. You can add it onto any single family residence. So if you're zoned for an R1, you can have an accessory dwelling unit. If you're zoned for an R2 and already have two properties, two residences on that property, R2, you can still add an accessory dwelling unit. So with that, you can go all the way up to 1,200 square feet, or 50% of the main primary home. And with that is also look at outside the box. Take a look at expanding the primary residence, and then you can maximize your ADU size. For example, we've been working on an accessory dwelling unit, 900 square foot home. What's the first thought off your top of your head? 450 square feet. How about this? The lot's big enough where we're going to build over a 2,000 square foot home and make that existing 900 square foot property the ADU. So there's definitely options there. Look at different ways to slice and dice what you can do with your property. And with that, let's go into a lot of details, the why now. There's very few homes on the market, very few homes for sale, very, very low occupancy for available rentals. The state recognizes that, the city recognizes it, the county recognizes it. So what they're doing is relaxing the building codes. Their main focus, parking, setbacks, permit fees, those kind of things, and making it easier for investors, making it easier for homeowners to take advantage and really help with the high housing prices, help with more affordable housing, being able to stay in the San Diego area. Huge influx of people, so few new homes are being built. So California state law, Senate Bill 1069, Senator Wachowski drove this, January of 17, so it's only 1 year old. And as the state rolled out the law, the municipalities across the county, across the different cities within the county area, are then implementing the plan, implementing the law, rolling it out. With that again, accessory dwelling unit, you've got a full kitchen, legally rentable, and a lot of the bonus items is with the parking spaces. So I'm going to talk a little bit more detail on how an ADU can benefit if you're short on parking versus a room addition. So looking at how you can look at different properties and what is the best way to look for. The thing to know though is we've got the state law in place, Senate Bill 1069. Each municipality is rolling it out slightly differently. They have their own interpretations of the Senate bill, and they're doing it on a different timeline. So with that, it's still evolving. The city of San Diego literally just updated their zoning code right before Thanksgiving on November 22nd. So even though this bill went into effect in January of 17, they're still making changes. Every time you go down to the building department, last time I was there, the building representative, zoning representative said, if anybody has an ADU question, come up right now. I'm only going to say this once. Because they're getting flooded with questions on, can I do this? What about the setbacks? You know, can I put this on my property? What can I do? What can't I do? So with that, I wanted to put out some examples here because the big focus is doing the due diligence. And it is very property specific in a city municipality area in which you have your property. We're looking for properties. A lot of it is the maximum size. It varies by city. A lot of it is the parking requirements and then also the setback. So for instance, City of Chula Vista. There, you can go all the way up to the maximum of 1,200 square feet. No additional parking is required, which is huge if you want to maximize that space and not worry about how you're going to fit in an extra parking space. Chula Vista, typically the lots are a little bit bigger. City of San Diego, lots a little bit more dense. There, no parking is required if you're 500 square feet, less than 500 square feet, and you're within a transportation corridor. So right there, for example, doing an ADU above an existing car garage, 1.5 car garage, it's magically going to be 480 square feet. And because we're within a corridor, transportation corridor area in that part of North Park, we don't have to add additional parking. So there is ways to look at it. If I said, you know, great, let's make a 700 square foot ADU in the city of San Diego, I'd have to figure out where to put parking. So a lot of times parking will be able to drive the decision on the size and what you can do with your property. City of Del Mar, by the way, their maximum size, 550 square feet. So again, you have that state law that says you can go up to 1,200, but then the City of Del Mar says, thanks, no thanks, you're going to cap that at 550 square feet. Coronado, they are digging in their heels like there's no tomorrow. So if any of you are living in Coronado, we can help you, but boy, they are making it difficult because they essentially don't want that infill. And they are limiting it, making restrictions, making it difficult to work with. Places like El Cajon, places like Lemon Grove, La Mesa, they're making it as easy as possible. They're enabling you to go in, do the maximum size, have very, very limited parking restrictions, setback restrictions, etc. So one of the things that I talked about and I want to mention is really why I care about the parking. What is the impact? Why do I want to know? So if you have a home and you're doing a room addition, a lot of people, if they're looking at doing quick flips, they're like, no problem, I'm going to buy this property, I just need to add in, a little master bedroom, little ensuite, no problem. Well, guess what? It's going to drive an additional parking space. So they're like, oh, there's no room for parking. So, what can we do? Instead of making a room addition, actually turn it into an ADU, turn it into an accessory dwelling unit, and then no parking is typically required. So again, there's that, if you're limited on space, you can make it an ADU. What about all those properties out there that have garage conversions? Way back when, not necessarily permitted, not necessarily legal. Now, we can convert that into ADUs, and again, no parking restrictions. So food for thought. So when you're looking at the property, you're like, what can I do with this? Am I on a quick turn? Then we can do a quick conversion, do a room addition. If you have room for parking, great, you're good to go there. If you're tight on space for parking, turn it into an ADU. Don't have to worry about the additional parking. One of the other things that comes in, as I mentioned, with the garage conversions. So in the past, unpermitted spaces. Everyone was like, well, okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on. Let someone else worry about that unpermitted space. But now, it's like, ooh, we have an unpermitted space. Tell me more, show me more. Why is that? The garage conversions, the additions. With that, you've got a lot more benefits these days. Construction time, the costs, it's already built. So those are greatly, greatly reduced. You got those already there for you. Typically, you got to bring it up to code. Okay, typically, minor updates. Minor updates are needed. Again, the materials already built, already there. Don't have to worry about all the construction costs, the materials. Minor upgrades depends on how good of an unpermitted space was made or not, but you have that chance there. So we're helping, we're really focusing on if you've got a short time frame, what's your goals? Is it a quick flip? Are you going to buy and hold? If you want rental income, here's some options in terms of ADUs, and then here's some options in terms of room additions. So again, with those unpermitted spaces, converting them into ADUs, it really comes down to your goals and your priorities, your timeline, your budget. So with that, ADUs, it fits pretty well if you're doing a buy and hold, if you're looking to rent it in particular, and also if you're doing a flip where it's not super, super fast, that you want to turn that around really quick. The ADU, again, you're adding an entire second dwelling, and you're increasing the property value with that. Rental income, you get the rental income with that. Construction costs, that's kind of a little bit more on the con side of it. The construction cost and time, that might be a limiting factor for you. Again, it depends on your goals. If you're doing a buy and hold, it may work out great. Given the quick flip, maybe not so much. As I mentioned with ADUs, parking considerations. So this might be your best bet if you're tight on parking spaces. The flip side of that coin, what if you've got a great property and you want to do an update, do some cosmetic stuff and get it back out there? You've got a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, you've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you want to turn that into a 4-bedroom, etc. Room additions, great for quick flips, and then typically faster to add a room addition than to go with an accessory dwelling unit. And then with that, you've got potentially less construction costs because you're not building a brand new dwelling, probably adding on. And with that, like I mentioned, the concern of parking. So what the concern is, if you have space, great, maybe it's not a problem. If you don't have space, then maybe you need to go the ADU route. So with that is, as I've mentioned a lot about increasing the property value. So, sounds like a great idea, but what kind of really, numbers are we seeing? So our colleague of ours, Angela Kim from homesbyak.com, did an analysis of some North Park homes. These are 2 homes that sold within the last 6 months of 2017. They are comparable to each other and recently renovated. So we're doing pretty much apples and apples comparison. The first home without an ADU sold for $689. So definitely the market prices are going up, especially in North Park. And so that was the first home without an ADU. The second home, very comparable, same time frame, same place, same sort of renovation remodel, with an ADU. $855K. That's a $166,000 increase with and without an ADU. So pretty huge, definitely a big, big increase. With that, you're like, great, I have an ADU, I'm in North Park. Rental income, $1,200 to $1,800 a month for something on the average of 800 or so square feet. Questions I get right back to you at the end here. So with that, you've got an increase of almost $166,000 and the potential for income. So with that, just wanted to get the information out. The state law has been passed, it's only a year old. It's in its infancy. We wanted to get out the information to you in terms of how you can utilize the information if you're an investor, if you're a homeowner, if you have aging parents where you want to get them closer to you, or you have your kids in college that just finished, they've got all the student debt, you can bring them home, but yet they have their own space so they won't drive you insane, or have you drive them insane. And with that is really looking at maximizing your property value and being able to enable that rental income. So with that, here's my contact information, and we do a free site visit. I know we can't address all of our questions that you have tonight, but go ahead and give me a call. We can come to you and take a look at the property and help you maximize that in either making an ADU, doing a room addition, getting a permanent space, an unpermitted space permitted, any combination thereof. So again, my name is Chris Donikowski, 310-488-1358 with Ruin Design Group.
Okay. We got a few minutes for questions, just a few questions, and then Chris, you're going to stick around?
Absolutely.
And then afterward, because we got a few to go, we got like 4 questions. Go ahead, Chris,
Yes.
pick who?
The unpermitted room is part of the house or has to be separate?
The unpermitted room is a part of the house or separate. It can be either. It could be attached or detached. ADUs could be attached to the main home or detached.
Does the new state law supersede HOA restrictions, or HOA restrictions can say, no, we're not going to go along with the new state law?
The HOAs can do their own thing, so they're a private organization. So the state law is there, then the municipalities put on their flavor, then the HOAs put on their flavor. We found, working with a homeowner that wants to do an ADU in an HOA area, the HOA said, if the city will go for it, we'll go for it. So it just all depends on the HOAs. Yes? I'm sorry, what about the garage?
Building above the garage?
Absolutely, building above garage is definitely doable, and that's one that we're doing in North Park right now. You had a question?
What was the cost of construction between these basic 700 and 850? What was your additional cost of preparing?
I don't have the specific details on the construction cost, but we've been seeing, depending, the construction costs can vary from a simple unpermitted space conversion into an ADU, or a brand new structure, a large structure, or a small structure, and attached, detached, the construction costs vary quite a bit.
I can tell you, because I just built a 450 square foot addition, that if you're adding on, so you're adding some, foundation to it and adding on, permits, fees, SDCIA, architect, engineering, historical, everything, at least $200 a square foot, probably $250 when you're done with demolition, everything you got. So
basically it breaks out about even between the 700 and 850 by the time you get them.
$200 minimum a square foot, probably $250. I mean, and it just depends. But it costs more than you think. But if you already own the land, it's a slam dunk on the cost to do it.
Definitely. We have time for one more question?
One more question.
Great, and if afterwards, again, myself and Audrey Ruland, our principal, will be here afterwards. Elias. Minimum square footage is driven by the municipality of where you're located. The junior ADUs is a subset of Senate Bill 1069. and that is about, I believe, 350 square feet. So you can go fairly small. And again, thank you very much. Audrey and myself will be here later on to answer more questions. And then also feel free to give us a call and we can come to you and take a look at your property. Thank you very much. So she also will wait around for the panel. Once every panelist presented, then we take even more questions. So depending on how fast we get through the presentations, okay? So with that one said, needs no introduction. Derek, come on up. Give him a bigger hand. He is like me, talented, but a little more talented. So he also runs up the North County Investor Club, and we forgot to mention the meeting they're going to have. So he's going to announce the meeting, and then he's going to be our first panelist for the deal profile. So take it away and put your slides up.
Thank you, Scott. So really quick, you guys, I'm on the board for the North San Diego Real Estate Investor Association. We normally meet the third Tuesday of every month, which would be next week. We got conveniently booted from our third Tuesday slot by our venue, and we had to move it back one Tuesday. So we have a feeling we're probably going to have a lot of people show up that still think it's next Tuesday, but please, it is moved to the fourth Tuesday of the month. That's January 23rd. Our speaker Brian, what's up?
Is that ongoing?
No, one time only. Yeah, good question, sorry. Our speaker is Derek Walkington. He's one of the most creative, interesting real estate investors I know. The ways he puts deals together and negotiates is simply mind-boggling. But the theme for this month is big mistakes and big losses. So he's going to come and talk about a lot of the deals he did this past year that lost money, made huge mistakes, and things like that. So it's going to be really interesting, but it's not all bad. He'll leave you with a strategy that he's using right now to find a lot of deals. So anyway, go to nsdrei.org for the info and to sign up.
Derek, one quick thing.
Yes.
Rob Lee or Ron Lee, your wife is looking for you out in the front, just FYI. Ron or Rob Lee. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Jump in there.
It's awesome.
If it was your wife, you'd want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great.
Here's your click.
Got it.
And just tell us your background. I didn't properly introduce you, that you're a real estate genius.
Genius is far from the truth. I've been in real estate since 2010. Started right out of college, bought a duplex, then from there got into flipping houses. I've owned some mobile home parks. I've done some apartment building stuff. I've been a lender, landlord. So I've done quite a few things in the industry. I'm also an agent now as well with Berkshire Hathaway. So I kind of wear a lot of hats. But right now we're focusing mainly on our flips here in San Diego, and this is one of them. And to get started, just so you know, if anyone wants to contact me, our website or my email address is at sunoco.co. That's not .com. Someone had taken our domain with .com, so we had to resort to .co. This property, 8158 Canova Street in Mira Mesa. For those of you that know Mira Mesa, it is a very hot submarket right now. So it's in Mira Mesa, I already covered that. So the lead of this home, from this home came on the direct mail campaign. I believe it was an absentee owner campaign that we were mailing to. Can't quite remember, but I believe that's what it was. And this particular home is, if you know Mira Mesa, it's walking distance to the Target shopping center, which has a bunch of really great schools around it as well. So the location was just awesome, and we knew that we were going to have a lot of activity on this house once we were finished up with it. So in Mira Mesa, it's a largely Asian demographic, and there's a lot of people who enjoy walking to these types of amenities. So we knew it was going to be a really hot commodity. Our exit strategy from the beginning was to flip the house, was to resell it. This house had a hair on it initially. It was boarded up by the city of San Diego, condemned, deemed for substandard living conditions, and the house had been an eyesore in the neighborhood for a long time. And I didn't know that. I wrote the letter to this address based off the address on my campaign, luckily to find out that it was the house in such poor condition, and I kind of got lucky on the timing, and I'll explain that in a second. So here's a picture of the house. You can see this actually makes it look kind of farmhousey, not too bad, but it was really bad. There's holes in the roof. I mean, obvious rodent and pest issues everywhere. A lot of the stucco was falling down. The house had been in this kind of condition for a very long time. So I received a call from the seller's brother, and that's was my point of contact this entire time. And the seller himself was in a nursing home, had very poor health, and so the seller's brother was responsible to handle all his obligations. So this seller had received a lot of letters from a lot of different investors, and I know from actually meeting on site of the property, quite a couple of them were quite notorious, I hear, and I know that those guys do a lot of really good work, so I'm really thankful to have gotten the property. That day, when the seller was calling people who had written letters, I was the only one who answered their phone. Well, that's what they told me, at least. So I guess it goes to show you, answer your phone if you can, and maybe it's a deal on the other end of the line. So he explained to me the situation. There was over $50,000 in abatement liens. So what that means is the city had to go in and spend their own money to bring the property up to a proper condition, and then when they do that, they put a lien on the property so that whenever title is transferred, that's going to have to get satisfied. So although the seller knew about it, he wasn't very familiar with the actual nuances of how that all works. So I actually took some time and I called the Code Enforcement Division and also the city attorney. So the city attorney is the actual department in the city that actually handles the lien that gets removed when title is transferred. The Code Enforcement Division is the one that is actually on site and handles and inspects the property and will register any violations. So it took me a while, but I got a hold of both of them and got some information, relayed that information to the seller. He was pretty happy and impressed and that I would do that for him, and said that none of the other investors that he had talked to had done that. So that already kind of put me to the top of the line. So eventually, the code enforcement officer agreed to meet me on site, but only if I met him there with my contractor and power tools to open the door and take the boards off the window so we could get inside to see what the inside of the home looked like, because they kept trying to tell me that they weren't going to do that until the code violations were removed. But I said, well, no, there's no way I can do that because I need to get inside, make sure there's no dead bodies or a nuclear bomb inside this house before I actually pull the trigger and buy the home. So I showed up with my contractor, and a group of investors were there, and I was kind of bummed because I thought I was the only one. But there were quite a few guys there, and it is what it is. But in that kind of situation, you have to be confident and know that you have a lot to offer that seller. And what happened next was amazing. So this house has nothing to do with the one we just saw, except the fact that the same seller owned this one as well. So while we were walking the house with all the other investors, he pulled me around back of the house so no one could hear, and he said, "Hey, you're the only one to follow up with me multiple times and to do the diligence with the city. I really want to work with you, but I have another house to sell down the street. Are you interested?" I mean, of course. Yeah, I said yes. And so a few minutes later, after everybody left, we got in the car and went down to this other property. This time, there were no other investors. It was just me and my contractor and the seller. And this was the house. You can see it's in Mira Mesa as well. It looks pretty nice from the exterior, so this would be a pretty easy flip. You look at the inside, that's the inside, dated, but no major problems. So, I mean, it's about as textbook as a flip can get. So immediately, I was excited and told him I would have 2 offers to him within a couple hours. So I went back to my office, and I made him 2 offers. I offered him $345 for the subject property, the one that was boarded up, and I offered him $425 for the other home that was down the street. I'll pay all closing costs, and I usually structure my offers like that with all these off-market deals. It just makes sellers feel good. They don't have any other expenses coming out of their pocket. And I'm very flexible with the escrow timing. I don't have any contingencies, assuming that I've been inside the house with my contractor, and with both these homes I had already, and except clear title. If you can't transfer clear title, then we have an issue. We have closed before with having clouds on title, but in very rare circumstances. And have a good title rep if you're going to do that, or a good title company, maybe not necessarily the rep. I use a one-page contract. I don't use car forms when we buy properties off market. I find that sellers get super overwhelmed when you present them a 10-page contract, and then all of a sudden you're hearing from an attorney or a real estate agent, and anytime they get involved, now there's commissions and there's lawyer fees and all that, and I don't hate commissions. I'm a realtor myself, but when you're trying to buy a deal like this off market, you just the room is not there, so you really have to eliminate that aspect of it. A seller accepted my offer on one condition: if I shifted $45,000 from one house to the other. So what he meant was, on the house down the street, which he did not have to split, which he did not have to split the proceeds with his siblings, he wanted $45,000 more to go to that purchase price, where on the one with boarded up, he did, so that was a lower purchase price. And I really didn't care, as long as, you know, all the money goes to the same place or comes from my same place, and as long as whatever he does with it is his business. So that was the way we structured it, and did not have a problem. What it did do was it made the other property a little bit thin, and anytime you have a thin deal and your lender gets asked some questions, but if you have a good lender or someone you work with for a while and you explain to them the situation, you're very clear about it, they'll usually work with you. So we explained the situation and we got it done. I touched on this a little earlier. The city wouldn't remove these liens until, or remove the $50,000 lien until the abatements until the code violations were cured. And we kept doing this song and dance where saying I'm not going to buy the home until I can't get my guys in to fix these issues until I own the home. And so finally, I wrote a personal letter. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this was the letter that I wrote. And I spent a little bit of time on this to make it as sincere as I could. And I basically just said, you know, we want to buy this home, and we're going to turn this home from the eyesore of the neighborhood into the envy of the neighborhood, but I can't do it until I own it, because I can't risk that type of money until I actually have title of the property. And they agreed. And after sending this in, a few days later they agreed, and we were able to move forward and close escrow. So here are the nuts and bolts. I got a hard money loan on the property from Lending Home. That's the lender I use the most. At least now they're super competitive, and I don't endorse them, but I can tell you that from experience, they have some of the best terms and rates I can find right now. Total loan of $365,000. So I was buying the home for $300,000, right? And my rehab budget was $95,000. I'll touch on that in a minute. But my rehab budget was $95,000. So what they did was they gave me 90% of the purchase price in their initial loan. So if I was buying it for $300,000, 90% of that was $270,000. And then they were also loaning me the complete amount for the rehab, which was $95,000. So I had to come out of pocket $30,000 plus closing costs. To get the deal done. Not too bad. Interest rate on this type of loan is 8.75%. And again, that's really, really good when you compare it to the industry. Origination fees, 3/4 of a point. And they charge about $500 in junk fees, which just is another term for like paper pushing fees and administrative fees. I call them junk fees, and I think a lot of other people do as well. But please understand that these rates and terms didn't start that way. Like I started at 11% and 2.5 points, probably like everybody else. But after you do enough deals and you're able to create that relationship with lenders, they're willing to work with you on the price and terms because they know your product and they know that you'll do what you say you're going to do. Personal guarantee. So I have to provide a personal guarantee. I don't like that aspect. I'll probably try to negotiate that out soon. Basically, if anything happens, I'm on the hook for it. 12-month term, that's the term of the note, and no prepayment penalty. If I pay off the loan prior to the 12-month term, then they don't charge me for it, which some loans will have. So it's kind of a dark photo, but this was the day when the code enforcement officer let us in, and there wasn't too much light because the windows were boarded up. You can see that's the kitchen. I mean, the house was just trashed. So this is where when you walk in the door, the roof was collapsing. It was the second worst property that we've ever bought. And the other one was very similar to this, but I mean, it was really bad. The city had a no trespassing sign on there. This is the garage.
Did you keep the van?
I will tell you in 1 second. So in the garage was so cool. There was this really old like rape wagon van, and then there was also this '66 Mustang in the garage, and it didn't have title, but I didn't care. I made an offer on the Mustang as well, and unfortunately the seller decided to keep the Mustang, but we went back and forth a long time to try to get that, and they did not agree, but it's okay. Alright, so the rehab project fully permitted. Anytime you have a house that's already under scrutiny by the city, you got to pull your permits. Okay. So we had to pull a complete set of permits. Our contractors, we pay. We give them one payment each week until it's completely done, and then we hold back 10% so that we can do a punch list and then I give them their final payment. This list you see on the right with all our cost breakdown. So if you're taking photos of it, please feel free. I really don't care, and I'll send this to you if you want. If you want to have lunch, I'll give this to you. And these are basically all our costs for what we pay for everything we do. Some people are tight-knit about this, but I don't care. I think the more the merrier. When I first was getting started, to have something like that would have really helped me. So if you guys want that, shoot me an email or some coffee or whatever. Our rehab estimate was $82,000, and you'll see at the end of this list, it totaled $82,000. I budgeted $95,000 because I knew we had a little extra hair on this dog. I think I did. So mold remediation, and I have to give a plug out to Julie Crittenden over here. So her and I have been working for years now, and I had her come out to this property. And Julie, what does mold stand for again? Okay, all right. This house had obviously been in disrepair for so long. There was mold issues, and Julie came out. She gave me some great advice, saved me thousands of dollars. We ended up closing escrow, no problems. So it's really good to have someone good like that on your team, not just mold, but all aspects of your team. There was no gas meter, guys. I totally blew this. When I walked around the house, I did all my inspections. I totally did not check for a gas meter. I just skipped my mind. I looked at the electrical panel and everything I normally do, but I never check gas meters because there's nothing to really check. And I learned my lesson because in order to install a gas meter and to go through any municipality, you guys, it's a pain in the butt. And it added an extra 3 weeks, really an extra month. You have to hire a very specialized contractor to do it, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. So I learned my lesson on that, and I check for them on all our properties now. Here's a couple photos from rehabbing. These aren't too interesting, just some framing. This was roof day. So here's a couple of the after photos. I don't know why that arrow was still in there, but that's not a prop. That was part of the PowerPoint. So the house came out really good. We removed the wall. You can see, opened it up, and the house is ended up turning really nice. And so we use all the same products on all of our flips now. And in this price point, if we step up price point a little bit, you got to get more creative for that particular submarket. But anything in the median price range, give or take, $100,000 or so, it's all the same stuff. You know how much it costs. How quick it is to install. So that we found success in that. All right, I'm on the last slide here too. Listed on the MLS for $539. I originally penciled the deal at $535 ARV. I had 9 offers in 4 days. Ended up selling it for $554. So we found an extra $19,000, which is awesome. I aggressively market all of our homes, and I list them myself. When you have that many offers over asking price, you can get really aggressive with your counter offers. I mean, there were no appraisal contingencies. All the timelines were trimmed. We did agree to pay for termite fumigation and 1-year pest control. Probably should have done that initially, but we always like to save some of those things for the end and maybe save some of the money in a negotiation rather than paying for it all up front. Here's the final slide. Here are the numbers. 308. We bought it for $300. It cost us $8,000 in closing costs. We paid for all the sellers, don't forget. And holding costs are $14,000, interest, insurance, etc. $92,000 was our total number all in on our rehab, including mold remediation, etc. So all in, $414,000. Sold it for $554,000. Title commission, etc. over $27,000. So at the end of the day, we netted 113 grand on this house, which was pretty awesome. Don't forget, the other house that we bought, we only made 9. So really, on both of these houses, we were at like 122, but I mean, still for 61 grand or so, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room would do those deals. So, final thoughts, always check for a gas meter. Thank you.
This was awesome. Nothing better to have an investor up here that talks the walk, walks the talk. We have our second deal profile coming up. Does anybody have, while we're switching over to Peter, do we have any urgent questions that can wait until the end?
How long did the rehab take you?
How long did the rehab take you?
On the subject property?
Derek?
Yes.
How long did the rehab take?
That was, closing to closing was 4 months. But we got held back 1 month with the gas meter issue. So 3 months, typical, but 4 took us.
Okay, so
Did he keep
you
the
guys
van?
can see a pro at work. So now,
You didn't tell us what you did with the van.
say again?
You didn't tell us what you did with the van. Yeah.
What did you do with the van?
Oh, so the van actually was interesting. Sorry, should I come up?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not done yet.
All right, so the van was really interesting. That didn't have title either. It had a bunch of really old computer monitors in the van, which apparently is hazardous waste. And to get rid of that van was super tough, but we negotiated on the front side with the seller that would be their responsibility, so we didn't have to deal with it. But it did have to sit on our property for about 3 weeks while they figured it out, and eventually we got rid of it for scrap.
Hey, Derek, did you ask the seller if you would take a certain price ahead of you giving him an offer? Or did you get an idea of what he wanted?
No, so, okay, yeah, so he's asked if the seller, if I talked to the seller about price before I gave him an offer, and sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I just kind of like feel how it's going with that particular seller, that instance, or that property, but this I didn't. I just said I would have an offer to you within a couple hours, and sure enough, he accepted it, and maybe I'll talk about this later, but this particular seller has come back to me 3 times. We bought one of his other houses, are in escrow to buy one more, and he called me last night saying he has another one that he needs to sell. I mean, you just never know what kind of doors they're going to open from these people.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
On the gas meter, real quick, was it a stolen gas meter or a bootleg gas line, or how did it not have a gas meter?
It had been capped because of the condition of the property. SDCIA came out and capped it and removed it, and so in order to get it put back in, not only did I have to put a new gas meter in, but I had to trench all the way to the street and put a whole new line in, high pressure line, and that was just a huge nightmare. It wasn't that expensive, but it just really took some sweat equity out, and we had to put a lot of time and effort into it. I wish I would have known about it early, but I still would have done the deal.
What was the extra cost to all that?
Cost of that, I think the backfilling was like $2,800. The SDCIA pays for the meter. I think all in we were about $5 grand to get that done.
All right, so now we got Peter Jordan, which is kind of more like a newbie in the investment world, real estate investment world, but he has a long-standing experience in the education and fresh from Hollywood, in photography and presentations, and he was sick and tired of the corporate ladder, corporate structure, right? And you thought you will find your freedom in real estate investing. So give it up for Peter. Thanks for coming.
I first came here about 18 months ago. I've done a few deals up in LA in the 80s with a partner who was a CPA. But I really hadn't done real estate until about 18 months ago. Came here, started going to the education programs, meeting people, and it's a great club. It really, I wouldn't have had the success I've had without this club. So this is 1043 3rd Street in Imperial Beach. We bought this a year ago this month. And purchased it through Noel Velez, who's here with Net Worth Realty. And I chose this property because I was looking for a house in poor condition in a good location. As you all know, it's a very competitive market, and I believe I had to move very fast when presented with an opportunity. And I was actually half asleep on the couch. It was Sunday afternoon, it was about 2 o'clock. I was kind of half watching a golf tournament when Noel called me. He said this deal, and I live at the far north end of the county. This house is 65 miles from my house. I jumped in my truck, drove down there, met Noel, and walked through it in about 5 minutes. And within 10 minutes, about 6 or 8 other investors showed up. So I really did move quickly. The exit strategies were sell for a profit or rent. It was the worst house in a good neighborhood, and it was 2 blocks from the beach, so it wasn't that difficult a decision. Paid $472,500. We used the standard contract. The way net worth usually works is you give them a non-refundable deposit. And Noel's been pretty good. He's sent me a lot of deals. This one made a lot of sense. I've looked at a lot of others that haven't made sense to me, but they've made sense. In 10 minutes, about 6 or 8 other investors showed up. So I really did move quickly. The exit strategies were sell for a profit or rent. It was the worst house in a good neighborhood, and it was 2 blocks from the beach, so it wasn't that difficult a decision. Paid $472,500. We used the standard contract. The way net worth usually works is you give them a non-refundable deposit. And Noel's been pretty good. He's sent me a lot of deals. This one made a lot of sense. I've looked at a lot of others that haven't made sense to me, but they've made sense for other investors, and other investors have made money. So if you work with net worth or another wholesaler, just make sure you know what your ARV is and what your costs are going to be. I paid the asking price, I paid cash, and I subsequently secured 50% from an equity partner, and we didn't split all the rehab costs. One of the big learning points was get a permit. My partner was a very, very experienced flipper. He's flipped literally thousands of homes, but he does them all over in La Mesa, in El Cajon, Spring Valley, and he buys everything on the auction. He has very high net worth backers, so he doesn't have any cost of capital. He splits the profits, and he just has a formula. I hadn't done it before. He was a friend of mine. He offered to help me, so I asked him if he'd join me on this deal. But his contractor was based over in that part of the county, so getting the contractor over here to work on this was a challenge. I'll talk about why it's good to make friends with the neighbors in a minute, and I'll talk, well, I can talk about it now. The first buyers we had were extremely difficult. They were first-time buyers, and I think they believe that the smart thing to do when you're buying a property is to negotiate the seller down for every possible defect. So they drove us pretty nutty for a few weeks. We basically agreed to give them a bunch of credits. They finally waived all their contingencies, and we were just waiting for financing. This took several weeks. After they waived all contingencies, at the very last minute, they went over to the property and talked to a neighbor who said, you know, that house was abandoned for a long time, and there were drug users in there. So these people went and got an inspection, they did drug testing, and they came back to us and said, the house has a meth lab in it, and you didn't disclose it, and we want, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in credits, and we want you to tear out the walls, and we want you to take out the insulation. And they handed me this letter from an inspector and this report. Well, I'm lucky because my nephew owns one of the largest environmental testing companies in the state, EnviroCheck. It's a great company. And I called John up in Orange County. He has offices all over the state, in Arizona and back east. And I called John and I sent him the documentation. He said, Uncle Peter, this is nonsense. What they're asking you to do is completely unnecessary. The safe level in San Diego County is 1.5. All your tests are below 0.1. You're fine. You don't have to do any of this stuff. The the buyers were unconvinced, they were completely focused on this, and so we basically paid them off to go away. And we got some new buyers. So I don't want to spend too much time on that story, but had I made friends with the neighbors, I might have heard the drug story and possibly could have been ready for this. It wouldn't have come out of left field the way it did. Here's some before pictures. I thought this was a bad house until I saw Derek's presentation. I thought this was just going to floor you with how bad it was, and then Derek stole all my time. So there's the house. There's another investor's truck there. There's the car contract on Noel sitting at the back table. I think that's Noel's car, and there's the contract. So that's the house. What happened? Okay, this is one of the interior shots. You see the wall has been patched with cardboard boxes. There's one of the bathrooms. Or that's the only bathroom at the time. That was the kitchen. Tarek and Christina had not yet done their design plan. There's Noel. He's back there. There he is. I told you he was going to make you a star, Noel. So that's the I don't know what that is, the living room, I guess. Now, I don't have a breakdown on all these costs like Derek has, but I have some of the costs. We had $6,700 on the landscaping and fence, garage door, design fees. The total on the rehab was $68,000. This is a lot less than I could have gotten it for on my own. I took advantage of my partner and his volume pricing with his contractor. Let's see. However, because he does so many things, he almost never gets a permit, and that cost me. Because we started work, the city red tagged us, and we were shut down for almost 3 months with design and plans. So that's the permit, no permit. We originally had hoped to be done in 4 months, and it took almost a year. One of the things that happened was the city, at the very end, before they would give us a certificate of occupancy, decided that we needed to reconfigure the entire sidewalk. And that added a few more weeks because we had to go to the building department. That's because they were on a new thing where they wanted the sidewalk to be ADA compliant. And the canceled escrow that I told you about with those previous buyers turned out to be a blessing in disguise. My partner is really smart, and he's reconfigured hundreds of houses. We had a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, and then the original 1-car garage had been converted to like this extra den bonus room, and then there was an additional 1-car garage added onto the side of the house. We took out one of the bedrooms to open up the living room and the kitchen. So that tiny little kitchen, we took out an entire bedroom, and then that bonus room we turned into a master suite with a small bathroom and walk-in closet. And that's the bonus room. On the left is the bathroom, and on the right's the walk-in closet. This is the house afterwards. We added this big side yard fence and the sod. And that's the front of the house now. And that's the interior after we took out the bedroom and opened up the kitchen. It's another shot of the staged dining area. We also added the French doors and larger windows. Another shot of the kitchen. Master bath. That's the other bath. That's the back. It's a corner lot, so the backyard wasn't that large. So first time to find a buyer took about 2 weeks, 10 days the second time. Also saved money because my partner's wife was the listing agent and they didn't charge a listing commission. There was a 9-day difference between the first and second buyers. I already talked about the first buyers. The second buyer wanted the property. He's from Colorado, and he wanted to close by the end of the year. So it's like, oh, meth? Yeah, no problem. Hey, just, it was like 9 days. We paid, these are approximate numbers, $472,500. Our holding costs for all those things, insurance, interest, fees, utilities, about 78, 68 in rehab. We sold it for $715. And our costs were $24 because I didn't have to pay listing agent commission. So the gross proceeds were $242, and then the net profit was $142. I think I have one more slide. So final thoughts, I was fortunate that I had the cash to move quickly. I would say have a bias for action. Look at and run the numbers on lots of deals. So when you see one that makes sense, you're comfortable, you know it, you won't hesitate. But you have to have confidence in your numbers. And I was new, I was anxious to do a deal, but don't buy something because you're anxious to do a deal. I've learned a lot from going on the Linska and Leo rehab tours, and also from their meetup, which is either Wednesday night or Thursday night. It's changed now. But she also teaches an ARV class, which is super valuable. It teaches you how to figure out what you're going to be able to sell it for. And I'm still learning. I'm brand new, pretty new at this. So next point, own your own decisions and mistakes. Don't blame others. So we had delays because we didn't get a permit, because the contractor wasn't performing the schedule, and because the first buyer walked away. And these were all preventable delays, and I'm ultimately accountable for them. Even though I had a partner and I could do this and I could blame others. So I learned a lot about what to do and not to do on my next deal. And finally, I'm not all that smart or savvy. I believe I bought the property at the right price, but a large percent of the profits came from the rising market. Okay? So it's not from anything special that we did during the rehab to create value. So knowing where you are in the market cycle is also pretty important.
When did you buy it?
I bought it in January of 2017, and I closed escrow on December 29th of 2017.
As you can see, even as a newbie, you can rake in some pretty decent profits. But just to add to your point why Todd is coming up, the rising market, remember he made about $60,000, $70,000 just by appreciation. So he would have had to pay a realtor and a real contractor, not his partner who got the volume discount. What would you have thought you would have made?
I don't know, I don't have that. But had we done it really efficiently and sold it in 4 months, I wouldn't have made anywhere near this much money.
So with this said, obviously to find the deals is one question we have, but we also have a question about once we find it, how do we fund it? And we have our own Todd Snodgrass, who is a serial entrepreneur, finally discovered that real estate is also a nice profit center, and he is helping people with financing deals. So come on up, give him a big hand.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My firm is EMD Funding. We've been in business here in San Diego about 3 years, and I was doing funding work out of Los Angeles for 10 or 15 years before that. My background briefly is that I've started about 5 different businesses since I was in my mid-20s. And along the way, I found myself in a situation where the rent was rising so fast on the apartment I had. They went through 3 owners in 4 years. They kept jacking up the rents to pay their new debt service. So I decided I would buy a house, and the house wound up costing me less than the rent. So that was my beginning of real estate when I was in my late 20s. And over the years, I have probably bought and sold half a dozen to a dozen properties. I've been involved in about 15 or 20 different deals where I bring money to the table or expertise or both. So basically, my take on this business is that you need to put profits first. Profits need to be considered above everything else, and there's no other considerations that are more important than profits. And you basically need to structure a deal so that profit is the first thing you think about and the last thing you think about. If you can't see that you're going to get a profit out of a deal, you don't do the deal. So we call it reverse engineering for the outcome. So basically what you decide is how much profit you're going to make, and you start working backwards to what you're going to be willing to pay. And I'll show you an example in a moment about how that works. And at the end of the day, if the numbers don't work, then you walk away from the deal. Too many people, too many times, especially in 2007, 2008, were way overpaying for pricing on properties. And the first clue was that they had negative cash flow as far as the eye could see. And then when the crash happened, they got washed out to sea. So here's an example of one that I'm talking about. So we determined, because of market conditions and where we think the market's going to go, that we're going to pay, that someone's going to pay us $540 for this house. We'll attribute $40 worth of selling costs and swap. We'll throw in $75K for rehab, debt service. The original purchase cost of the place is $350. You should be making $75 on something like that, which is about 14%. Some people think that's a little low, some people think that's a little high. It really depends on market conditions. At the end of all this, if it doesn't pencil out, at about 65%, some people use 70, a little to 70. If it isn't in this neighborhood, you probably don't want to do the deal. So there's 5 ways to make money as a real estate investor as far as my experience is concerned. And those are that you cannot be a property scout or a bird dog. And that means you're identifying distressed, motivated, and flexible sellers. These are people who are in foreclosure. They've got a lien against their house. They're going through a divorce. They've got an illness or some other big, major problem that's occurred in their life, and their finances have gone to hell. And so what you want to make sure of is you get an airtight contract with the fixer or flipper that you're going to sell this property to. You're going to flip the contract, or you're going to be involved in finding it so they can flip the contract. And hopefully you earn about $500 to $5,000 a deal. Why would you want to start out as a property scout or bird dog? Because it doesn't involve you having to spend any money. There's no investment capital required from you. And there are several ways to do that. Driving for dollars means that you establish a farm. Let's say in the Claremont area, a 40 square block area. That would be 10 blocks long and 4 blocks wide, just as an arbitrary number. And every day when you're going to work and you're driving home, you simply take a different route and drive through these 40 blocks over and over again, winding your way through every street, and you monitor them. Every couple of weeks you're repeating. And what you're looking for are houses that are run down, newspapers piling up in front, this isn't painted right, it's probably empty, it's got a problem. Not unlike the one that Derek showed you earlier. It's got problems. It's obvious in the street it's got problems. And then you find a flipper or a fixer who wants to take the property over, and you get paid a fee for having found it. Dialing for dollars, you're looking for, FSBO stands for the properties that are sold by, people are selling it themselves, for sale by owner. There's CO ads, Craigslist ads all the time for people that use wording like needs tender loving care, needs fix up, not appreciated property, that type of thing. You can do Google searches for obituaries. Often what happens in 60-70% of the cases from the probate attorneys I've talked to, when a partner dies in a marriage, the other one doesn't stay in the house longer than 2 or 3 years. The memories are too strong, the overwhelming amount of work they have to handle by themselves, and so they want to get out of the house. If there's a fire you read about in the newspaper, oftentimes the insurance companies, they want to get rid of those properties as soon as possible. Become friends with probate attorneys, or you can look online. So flipping contracts, we just went dead here. Flipping contracts. This is not flipping houses, this is flipping contracts. What that means is that you put a property under contract and then you flip it without ever owning it. You can do that during the consignment or the contingency period during escrow. So you'll have a 30-day escrow, you'll have a 14 or 17-day contingency period, and if you have a cash buyer lined up and can move that property quick enough, then you can move it off to that cash buyer during the contingency period during escrow. Is that easy to do? No. What happens is you might have to use something called transactional funding, which we'll discuss here in a moment. If you want to take possession of the property, which would be through hard money, like you heard about earlier, then that's what we call a fix and then flip the property. You're never intending to own it permanently, but you have to own it during the time you're fixing it up. Then you have the buy and hold property, which you might buy one that you fix up, and then you wind up owning it. Hopefully you'll have positive cash flow. In this case, you're collecting rents. And then the top of the pyramid is that you take a buy and hold, you put up with as much as you can in terms of tenants and toilets and termites and trash, the 4 T's as a landlord, and then you say, I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather have payments and not have to worry about those 4 T's. And in that case, what you'll do is you'll sell as seller financing the property to an investor, just like you used to be, and now you get to collect payments instead of rents. So that's basically the 5 ways that we see that you can be a real estate investor. That's being a bird dog, being a wholesale contract flipper, being a fixer and flipper, being a buy and hold where you rent it out, and then finally where you collect payments on notes. So here's some sources of capital for you to think about. If you are buying a property that needs to be fixed up, FHA, which has low interest rates compared to the marketplace, and has relatively low down payment compared to the marketplace, they have what they call a 203K, which allows you to be able to include rehab money in the purchase price. Up to $35,000 if it's called a streamline. Tom, can you stand? If you see Tom in the back, he does 203Ks. Anybody else in the room that does 203Ks, raise your hand. So Tom and many others do 203Ks. It's a little bit more complicated, involves a little bit more paperwork, but again, you don't have to take out a separate loan for the rehab. Hard money loans. I'm not going to go into too much detail because hard money loans you've probably heard about, but I'll just mention that they do have relatively high interest rates. They do have points involved. And you have to qualify for it in terms of usually having some kind of a reserve account. You have to give personal guarantees. There's downsides to it, but it's really the only way that you can usually get hold of money easily on the debt side. Now there's private capital that's available. It sometimes costs less and is available. And it comes in three different forms. That's a loan, which is what hard money does. That's debt. Then you also have equity, which means that you're giving up a share of the ownership of that property for as long as you own it. So let's say an equity partner comes in for half the money. You could have borrowed it, but you chose not to. You used an equity partner instead, so that equity partner is going to get to share 50 cents of every dollar of profit. He also shares 50 cents worth of every dollar worth of risk. So it's a risk-profit ratio situation. You have to figure out whether you like it or not. Joint venture, if you own a piece of land, say free and clear, you don't know what to do with it, you can bring in a contractor who will perhaps do the construction, and then once the thing is sold, you guys split the profit. You bring the land, they bring the expertise, and some of the money to the table to make it work. Transactional funding, or known as double closings, this is what you do, as I said earlier, when you have a flip and you can't get the thing closed inside the contingency period, the 14 to 17 days, the deal's about to fall apart. There are what's known as TFs, or transactional funders, who specifically will fund a deal so that you can then buy the property and be able to flip it using somebody else's money. That's what you're doing here. You absolutely have to have a cash buyer who's ready to go on the back end. So a transactional funding situation is certainly a potential to think about. And if you have any questions about how that specifically works, we'll answer them at the end because we've got time constraints here. Seller financing is a unique situation. Oftentimes you'll have sellers who don't need all the money that's coming from the proceeds. let's say they're selling their house for $600,000, they don't need every nickel. If they do get every nickel of that, they may have some tax consequences that will mitigate by taking an installment sale. So essentially, they turn into the bank, and that way there's potentially more buyers available for you to be able to sell the property to, because you're using your money that's tied up as equity in your property to sell that to this guy. And you can usually get higher than market rate interest rates. So instead of 2 or 3 or 4%, you might be able to get 5, 6, or 7. The truth of the matter is, a lot of times when sellers take in cash, it's kind of like winning the lottery. 5 years later, they don't have the money anymore. They blew it, or people borrowed it from them, or it's dissipated somehow. So by taking seller financing, they essentially are getting a pretty good payment every month based on the equity that they had in their own house. HELOC, those are home equity line of credit. That basically means you're tapping equity in your own home. The danger there is if you get a HELOC loan, say $150K, and you dump that into a real estate deal, and the real estate deal goes south, doesn't work, you lost money, you still owe the $150K on the HELOC. So there's a major downside, but it's definitely putting the right hands done the right way. HELOC's a good idea. You can temporarily tap your retirement funds like IRA, 401K. You can also tap your insurance fund. One of the downsides of tapping any of these, particularly insurance, is for you to have a whole life policy. Say it's worth $500K, it's completely paid for, and you want to borrow against that. They let you borrow at very cheap rates. 2-3% is, I believe, what they're doing these days. You take $100,000 out of that. The problem is, if you don't pay it back, then the policy itself is worth $100,000 less. You essentially borrowed against the future. Might be a good idea. Probably you want to schedule it to pay it back as soon as possible. Credit card advances, expensive way to get money. They usually charge several points, and they usually charge high interest rates. Some of them charge up to 29%. But if you need ready cash, credit card advances is definitely another tool in your toolbox. You can cross-collateralize against another property. So let's say that you own a property over here, and you want to buy a property over here. You can essentially use the equity, that is the value that's in that house over there, as collateral to be able to borrow money to buy this place over here. Hopefully for a profit, and hopefully soon, because you're going to have debt service on the loan that you take out. So you can cross-collateralize against a property. You can also cross-collateralize against a note. If you have a note, let's say for $100,000, you can probably borrow against that for, say, $75,000. And what you're doing is you're basically borrowing against the note instead of borrowing against the property. The underlying value of the property is still there, but it has nothing to do with the note. The note is a freestanding thing that you have, and you're simply borrowing against it so you can make a better use of your money and a better way to work with your money. There's also personal asset loans, like you could pawn jewelry and get a car title loan. Not the best way to go, but if you need the money and you've got the right deal, you've got the right exit strategy, so you're going to have the right profit coming your way and you can see it coming, you definitely want to sign up for that. You can delay your real estate commissions. This is a unique trick I've done a couple of times where I make it worthwhile for the real estate agent to not take his commission now. If he needs the money now, he's not going to cooperate. He's not going to listen to what you have to say. But if he does need the commission now, maybe you pay him 10% interest. Or you give them a point or two in the future earnings that you're going to get when you flip the place. So there's lots of different angles to be able to pull on that, and it's a way to keep cash on the table so you can use it for other purposes rather than have to pay the commissions, which means the money's gone at that point. It's kind of like a loan. I don't know what happened here. We had delayed real estate commissions. I don't know what the heck we had there. It could have made any difference. And so one of the last things is subject to financing. It used to be 50 years ago that they had what called assumable loans. Assumable loans are basically not available any longer. Assumable loans sort of went to the wayside about 25, 30 years ago and really haven't come back. But subject to is kind of a backdoor way to get subject to. The subject to is a back way to get kind of an assumable loan. Here's how that works. So supposing that you have somebody that you want to buy a place from, they still owe a mortgage on the house. You want to assume that mortgage and pay it. Now, if the bank finds out, they can call the loan. Don't get me wrong, there's a downside to doing that. But at the same time, what the bank really wants is the money. They don't want the house. after the last blowout in the real estate market, they really don't want the house. So as long as you make the payment every month, that owner can leave and you're gonna write 2 checks every month. You're gonna write a check to the mortgage and you're gonna write a check to the guy that just sold you the house for the difference. And that way you can get into a property and essentially assume a loan. But it's not really legally assuming a loan, it just functions that way. So, the summary on all this is that there's lots of different ways for you guys to make a profit on real estate deals. If it involves financing, you want to shop the cheapest financing, just like you want to shop the cheapest house you can buy for the best profit that you can get. And if you can't make the thing work out, it just won't pencil, then don't do the deal on either the financing side or on buying the house side. Walk away from the deal and go find one that does work better for your wallet. And that's what I have to say. Yes. Yes, okay. All right, thank you for reading my
Where's the mic?
Here.
Oh, you got it?
We're going to get, will all the guys come back up who spoke tonight?
You want me to answer this question?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead and answer them. They can all answer, ask
Just
questions. And girls.
repeat the question.
Lease option, she asked about lease option. Let's see if I can cover that real quick since everybody's coming out. So, let's say that it's actually a sandwich, a lease option sandwich, special type of sandwich, okay? And well, how that works is that you want to get hold of a property, but you don't have any money. And so you say to this seller it's a buyer's market, not like it is in San Diego now with the seller's market. It's a buyer's market we're talking about, which will eventually come back to San Diego. And you go to the seller and you say, look, I'll option this house for you. Give me an option so I can buy this house from you, and I'll pay you X amount per month. And after 3 or 4 years, you'll allow me to credit that money that I paid for the option every month towards the purchase price. Again, if a buyer can't sell it to anybody else, this is the deal. Here's where the sandwich comes in. Once you have that lease option, let's say for 5 years, you can turn around and rent it to somebody else and you don't ever live in the house. So maybe you're making a payment for $1,500 a month to the seller, and you now rent it out for $2,000 to this guy. So that's a little bit of an arbitrage, and you're making $500 a month in the middle. And that's why it's called a sandwich lease option. Doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's really sweet. I've only gotten away with one in my whole life, so they're pretty much a rarity. Again, thank you.
Okay, so now we're taking any questions from anybody. I just have one question because I want to stress a point to all the newbies that are in the room here. Derek, did you get a home inspection?
No, I did not. I never get home inspections on any of our properties now. I wouldn't recommend that to someone getting started unless you're really familiar with it. But my contractor and I act as our home inspectors, and it's not as thorough as a home inspection would be, but we get down and dirty. I'm not afraid to call in the attics or underneath crawl spaces to check something if I think there's a problem. But the answer was no, I did not.
Same question to Peter.
I did not get a home inspection on the Imperial Beach property that I profiled. I'm doing another project in City Heights, which Talmar Rock is funding, and I should have gotten a foundation inspection on that property. And that's a good thing for Brock because I spent more money, which I have to pay interest on.
Question for Todd. What is the most common way of people financing a deal?
Well, I mainly work with flippers, wholesale contract flippers, and they. I would say it's about half of them are using some form of transactional funding because they either by state law or deed or the escrow people won't cooperate. So the transactional fund, in fact, I've been approached now if I want to become a transactional funder, and I'm giving it serious consideration.
All right. To be fair, I need to ask her a question as well. Any ballpark figure of what permit costs are running? And because when that 1069 got implemented, they didn't think about the permit fees. in San Diego, for example. So they're charging like you're doing a regular big room addition.
Sure, so the whole point of Senate Bill 1069 is to make it easier for homeowners and investors to do an accessory dwelling unit. With that is the permitting fees, the setbacks, the parking, the size, etc. So with that, the permitting fees are being reduced, but again, we've been seeing a difference between the municipalities. So it is very specific to where you are, and it's very specific to your address, because there's permitting fees, there's other fees that go on top of that for water, schools, sewer, etc. Diane, is that?
Yeah, I have a question about that also. On the permitting fees, same size addition, are the permitting fees generally higher for an ADU or for a room addition? Does it take longer for either one versus the other?
So the permitting fee is different for an ADU versus room addition, and does it take longer? So what I'm seeing is, and there's the if, so it's like sort of yes, there's no 100% black and whites. We've seen time frame be a little quicker for room additions, but again, that's driven by the other restrictions. In part, you might need a driver that would switch you away from room additions over to ADUs. So that overall permitting time frame is potentially a little quicker on rooms. Permitting fees, again, it's too hard to say. I don't have exact numbers that I can quote because, again, depends on where you are.
So in San Diego, they're actually working on it, and I think it's on the next meeting they have to lower those permit fees. So it might be smart to get your ducks in the row, but don't pull the permits yet. Next question.
So I have a question for him.
Yeah, come on up.
The $200 per square foot cost that you mentioned, was that including land or just construction cost?
No, just permits, fees, survey, architectural, meters, entitlements.
Just construction cost, right? But is there anything else?
Everything, but not land.
Not land.
And not finance.
That seems to be really high because the insurance companies, when they insure your house, they give you like $125 per square foot.
I think that's not including permits, fees, and all that kind of stuff. And also, a bigger house is going to be less on a per square foot basis. And mine was somewhat of a rehab. We had to demo stuff. That includes $5,000 in demo. Getting rid of trash and debris is incredibly expensive. So this was a 450 square foot addition, and it was about $225 a square foot. Yeah. It'll cost more than you think. Let's put it that way.
So there's a question for Chris. So especially East County, you have a lot of garage conversions, right? So the property technically is out of parking compliance already. So when you take that garage conversion and make it into, accessory dwelling unit, how do you keep the parking up to the current code requirements for parking?
Sure. Great question again about parking because that can make or break a potential deal on a property. So with that, you have got a garage conversion, you made that into an ADU. You have to provide the original parking. So if it's a 2-car garage, the 2 spots in front of the driveway, those 2 spots in front of the garage count as your original parking. So all you have to do for garage conversions is to be able to replace what was there to begin with. So if you have a 2-car garage, the 2 spots in the driveway count. So then you do not have to go back and take that garage and make it a garage again if you go with the permitting as an ADU.
Okay, another follow-up question. So in parking, a lot of times you'll have a long driveway. Can you extend the driveway space by adding additional space on either side or both sides to allow more parking that way?
Love the question. So with the space, the tandem is also acceptable. So you can go 2 cars deep for a tandem. So if you've got a long driveway, that can count as 2 spaces. And then also with the ADUs, the whole point is to make setbacks relaxed. So depending, again, it's site-specific to your address and city, but the whole point is to be able to encroach upon the setbacks. So that's absolutely a possibility, both doing tandem parking and then also encroaching the setbacks.
I've got a question for you. Why aren't we seeing more manufactured homes as far as ADUs versus stick construction?
Sure, in terms of why aren't we seeing more manufactured homes instead of from the ground up to construction? So with that, there is potential, and I believe in the November meeting, we had one of the House and Ones that was talking about having essentially a mobile home type drop-in. There are restrictions, again, by city municipalities for mobile homes. So there is that sort of, like a tiny home movement. If you originally could be moved, there is a different set of restrictions than if you have your normal foundation you build up. So there's that additional layer of restrictions that the city and state is kind of staying away more from the mobile environment and that manufactured home environment. And it's just a matter of exactly where you are in the restrictions with that.
You have a question?
I looked into manufactured homes as opposed to mobile homes a few years ago when I was still living in LA, and I'll tell you that about 3/4 of the manufactured home companies went belly up. So the supply of the modulars is down. But if you're talking about a pure modular, there are no differences if you put it on a foundation by state law now, and that's been true for about 5 or 6 years, between a modular home and a stick-built. They are not allowed to distinguish. They're not even allowed to tell you that from the beginning if you don't want that disclosed. I still believe that's state law.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we have a question over here?
Yeah, is the shipping container is actually considered a modular home?
So if the shipping container is considered a modular home, I'd have to refer back to our principal, Audrey, or the shipping containers, we haven't worked too much.
There are extremely rare conditions in which people will turn a shipping container into a home, but the learning curve to get through that, I think that would have to be your specialty to make that pencil out.
So shipping containers can be done, but very, very rare, and hopefully you've got a long time frame to work it.
The city even has a problem with the metal building, okay, to equipment stuff. It's doable, but also they had an investor who put up a metal building and had a huge learning curve, okay? Who else has a question? I always have questions. To Derek and to Peter, so what was your key experience in both of your rehabs as in positive?
Positive, it was a pretty seamless deal. I didn't have too many hiccups except the gas meter thing. That was, I'd say, on the flip side, my biggest learning curve. And now in all my diligence, I specifically checked the gas meter. But the house was really seamless. I didn't have any issues except, I think the biggest takeaway, all right, kind of rambling, but the biggest takeaway was making the relationship with that seller. So this will now be 5 homes that I'll be buying from this one person. You just never know what who these people have or who they know.
But I think it was his follow-up. That's where I wanted to go. So he works very hard. So follow-up in this business is key.
I think my takeaway was, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but that a lot of the things that I have from my past as an information filmmaker and as a business owner, and that I thought should be happening, but I was deferring to my partner. At the end, I just gained a lot of confidence that I do have good judgment. I was thinking about the right things, and I know I'm going to make a lot of mistakes in the future, but I just have a lot more confidence coming out of that deal now to do it on my own without training wheels.
Peter, on your house, you said that the market went up a lot, so you made money. Do you think you would have made the same amount of money if you just bought the house, let it sit empty for a year, and sold it at the end of the year?
I don't know. I have to go to your book and run the numbers. That's a really good. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I'm also loaning money to my partner at 12%. And a couple times during this deal, I said to my wife, I should just give him the money at 12%. I wouldn't be going crazy with all these problems and make almost as much money. So.
We had a question, all right? Now.
I was just wondering, for a first-time investor, did you reserve the option that if the market had gone down, would you have kept the property and possibly moved into it? Did anybody take into consideration that if you get the property, if it's your first property, you don't own a home, would you have considered moving into the property and holding it as a residence and then selling it?
Well, had I not been a homeowner, and had I not had the personal family situation I have, which would require a larger home, I would absolutely do that, and I might do that in the future. I'm trying to sell my home now, and we are going to downsize, and I might move into something that I then rehab and sell it. I don't know. It has to do with tax laws and everything else.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because of the hard money lending. Is that an option in the type of way you say get money?
No, hard money lenders do not lend on owner-occupied properties. So that's today. Who else? There was Kathy?
Yes, this is for both Peter and Derek.
Peter and Derek?
When you see a house and it's a wreck, and you can envision what it would be, maximally fixed up to the max, but you know that the market, you don't want to invest everything you might be attracted to. What are the things right now that you feel are most cost effective to fix, and how do you choose their price?
Okay, if you start fix and flipping, how do you get the maximum profit, and what are your renovation techniques?
So I think this is where also being a realtor really helps. We work with buyers, and you know what people are looking for. But I would say the three things that get you the highest return on your investment are kitchens, bathrooms, and curb appeal. You have those three things. Typically, you have the interest of the buyer, and more specifically, if it's a couple, male and a female, you have the interest of the female because she likes the kitchen and the bathrooms. And we all know, guys, that if you're going to buy a house with your significant other, she's going to make the final decision. We don't like to cut corners, so we really like to do a full remodel, but we rarely buy a house where we just do the kitchen and the bathrooms, but not the floors and the windows and the doors. It's just, we like to put the full product, and usually all of our homes have been going over asking price, like crazy, no contingency. So for now, that's kind of what we would be doing.
Peter had it very easy because it was 3 blocks from the beach. Okay, so sometimes the location makes up for other things. So I appreciate everybody hanging around. I think if you have more questions, come on up, talk directly to the people. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for coming, and give us some feedback on tonight.